Hello, as I can here show you the history arts honor wars. Coloring you see right here is that you see that I got a list of the different wars that happened from the past. You say centuries centuries ago, back in early 1400s. You got the Korean War in 1950 to 1953. You got that right here, the China, South Korea, and the United Nations, and then along with World War I and World War II that began in 1914, 1918, and then so far as Italy, Japan, and Belgium, and then along with Germany, and then along with 1939 to 1945, you got World War II. But of course, it's to name a list of all these wars that began such and such year, and then very much is like what they were about is that so far as going into detail, that of course say this I can only explain so much, but anyway, so far as with the details about these wars is that that what I went ahead and list right here is so far as the wars and like the Cold Wars, and then along with the wars that happened those many years ago. But one war that I remember that of course is like one battle is that so far as of course September 11th is as we can know that is we can also call it is that is 9/11. That one war that I remember that it was, of course, was 9/11. But the fact is that was one war that say this. I don't think any of us would ever forget. Based on the fact about that from all the people that got killed that day, and the family members that lost their loved ones, and the stuff that happened on that day. And of course, is like I went ahead and included that, just the fact about is that the knowing about the history that whenever I was in school is like, so you got my reading glasses right here, my old ones actually, but you got my reading glasses. But whenever I was younger, that I did some research, used to say about study about the wars and stuff like that. I did research about whenever they began. And then, whenever they say they ended, and as far as I remember, that the only war that I think I can remember, I think was to say is the revolution. I think the evolutionary, something like that, the Evolutionary War, and then I think is and then along with that, you say another war that began, say back I think it was that 19, maybe in 1800 something like that, but. The different wars that occurred around that time, which I would say that you did some studies about it, so far as the history, so far as in social studies, you say study about the different wars, but whatever presidents that were around, that whatever wars that were fighting, and the fact about it is that you begin to wonder about the whole fact about the matter about going to war, is that you begin to wonder about the fact about that other countries is I guess say is based on fact about other countries, that other countries I guess you could say have some type of hate towards each other, or it has something to do with the fact about that say that the resources or whatever it is. But maybe about the color of the skin or whatever it is, but basically is that the fact is that about the wars is that if we all do our study that about exactly what they're about, and then about the history about them. But one war I remember that of course my grandfather was in, I think, World War II. It was in World War I. I don't know if he was in World War, of course, that may have been before his time too, which World War II, which I think he was in World War II, but of course it's like you had these, it could be aunts, great grandfathers or whatever you call it, that are fighting these wars, and basically as a president would probably say is that that it's like you go to war and then you go there to be able to fight for the country that you believe in, and then return home. And basically is that when I used it, it's like the Twin Towers, use it as an example. Is that of course one, you can say that a war that it's still going on is that of course for the president's speech of State of the Union is that so far as returning troops from Iraq it is, and then Afghanistan. This goes by by 2014. By 2014 is when when they start withdrawing troops from Iraq and Afghanistan, and then of course by 2015 or by 2016, whenever it is that they start bringing troops home. But the whole purpose is that September 11th, you say, is a war that I don't think any of us have forgotten yet. And of course, we are still fighting it. And but with all these other wars right here, like you say, is say the Cold War, the Korean War, say so far as China, and then along with is like you got Syria, you got South Korea, and then the United Nations, and then along with France, and then the Soviet Union, and then along with Britain. But of course, it's like I'll go ahead and include a flag right here. But basically, is that whatever wars that began at 1 year, is to think about the fact about it, whatever wars that occurred, is that whenever you go to war, that it's like is like exactly what they are about, and then maybe when what you gotta do in order to get prepared to go to war. But of course, I think that flag right there is kind of say a good example of the Great Britain flag, or it could be the Spain. I think it's one for Spain or whatever. But anyway, you got these different wars right here, and the way I think about it is that you got the American flag right here. But basically, so far as the word for security. So what good security so far is, you say, is good, good protection. You got good protection, and protection is to say it could be related to the fact about is with the soldiers, our troops, is that whenever they go to war, is to know is that to protect is that out there in Afghanistan or Iraq or whatever, fighting for their own, not only their own lives, but the fact about their country, for their own freedom, as so far as their freedom, for what for the country they stand by and what they live by. And the fact is that that whenever you go to war is to know that whenever they're going to return home. But I remember that of course that my grandfather watched the History Channel a lot of times. That he told me that a lot of times that these right here so far guns related, that weapons, you say weapons destruction, it's like so far weapons rights, that these are types of weapons you say that they used, you say in like the World War, the one the different wars that went on. And one of those is that so far as the boats, the ships that were out there. And I think that this if I remember right, that I don't know if this was the Korean War, the North Korean War, or I think it may have been World War II that took place in, which I think it was the Atlantic or the Pacific, Ocean, or wherever it was. But anyway, but I don't remember reading. If it was a couple of years ago. But basically is that whatever it is, it's I think it's a good idea to do some research about the different wars that went on, about so far as what year they took place, and it's like so far as the number of people, number of soldiers that lost their lives, and then so far as for Memorial Days, like for the memorials, and then the Memorial Day, which Memorial Day will be coming up here soon, is to know that so far as what the country stands for, and so far with I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, and under God, and indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. But so far is for the history, arts,